guys, Vlad Moldavskiy from MeetAdvisors.com here. I'm joined with Jay Sebben from L Street Collaborative. Jay, how are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Vlad.
Thanks for joining us. I want to get started, and I've heard a lot about you. I've read about your companies, and I want to get started and ask what exactly is L Street Collaborative?
Yeah, L Street Collaborative, we call it a venture development company. It's really a holding company with a few different business units that we've acquired. My background's in mergers and acquisition, mostly in technology. We bought a few small technology companies. We leverage that into a group that has resources being shared across business units and then also incubates some startups in areas that we think are interesting. So it's kind of a unique little holding company.
How did it form? I know you have another company that you started many years ago called EDC Technology.
Yeah.
And did it, maybe take me through kind of the history.
Yeah, I was early in my entrepreneurial career. I was helping people buy and sell companies, and I was also looking at deals for myself. And I ran into a small software company called EDC Technology, which I was able to acquire and get a hold of. And that basically became the cornerstone of what is now L Street Collaborative. It's in the ed technology space. It was a company that's actually been around since 1964 as originally a data company, but it's a software company that provides administrative software for higher education. And we're basically flipping it upside down and kind of going after some of the new innovations that are happening in ed tech with digital badging and alternate credentialing and alternate learning paths that aren't necessarily purely around higher ed. So it's kind of fun because, and this is kind of what we've done and what we still try to look to do when we're looking for deals, is we look for software companies that are maybe a little sleepy, or their technology needs some refreshing, or maybe their owners don't really know where to go, or they need to retire. And we see if there's an avenue for us to kind of apply that customer base in the same sector but in a new direction. And that's kind of what we're doing with EDC in the ed tech space.
So I'm going to take a wild guess, and I'm
Yeah.
going to say you love technology, and which leads me to my question.
Yeah.
Why software? Why technology? There's so many different businesses. There's so
Yeah.
many industries. There's clearly something that interests you about it.
Yeah, I mean, well, technology's fun because there's always stuff. It's creative. You're working with people of all stripes and from all backgrounds. People are very excited to be involved in it. So it's an exciting time to be in technology, number one. And I've been through ups and downs, the original .com bust and so on. But there's so much disruption and so many things happening, and you're building real things at the same time. And I own part of a small food company. And let me tell you, I joke about it all the time. It's a lot easier to make money in technology and software than it is in food. And it's margins, it's growth, it's all the reasons that everybody else is attracted to technology, because it's a great place to build value. And right now, it's one of the best times maybe in history to build value in this sector. So it's a great place to play.
So before we got on camera, you mentioned some industries that you've been a part of. What kind of softwares, what kind of industries have you really looked at? You mentioned accounting, you mentioned project management. Maybe touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, we have a business unit called 3P Works that's in project management, and it was again another some entrepreneurs that kind of ran out of steam in the recession. We were able to bring them into the fold, into a larger group, and that's how we've opportunistically found these deals that kind of fit within our scope of business. Most of the things that we're involved with and the things that we like personally are more, and where I think there's a lot of opportunity for the next several years, are in more of the business and enterprise sector and disrupting that sector. I think a lot of the activity that's happened in the last 10 years with the consumer side, Facebook and Twitter and everything like that, has shown us the way on how we should expect user experience to operate and how we want things to be easy and simple and cool. And I think the next approach is taking that and apply it into the business sector. There's no reason why some guy in a warehouse has to have 6 months training for some ugly interface to look at some thing on a screen, that has dust all over it. There can be a lot of cool applications in specific business niches, and there's a lot of software companies that are little tiny guys that, believe it or not, it's kind of like the metals industry was 20 years ago. Because all these guys started software companies in the 80s and the 90s, and they don't know about mobile, or they don't have the stamina or the steam to push on to the next stage of life, but they have a nice niche group of clients, or they're in a very niche sector that's industrial or whatever, and those are cool spaces, and I think there's a lot of growth opportunities there. Those are the ones that we're trying to find. It's a little bit, although people are catching up, I think it's a little bit different than the folks that are, have been focusing on the next social app or the consumer thing, which everybody gets because we all have phones, so there's all these ideas pop into our head, but the business side, I think, is where we play.
I think what's interesting to kind of piggyback off that comment is for example, I hate to say this, Dad, hello, I'm going to give you a shout out. I walked into my dad's office recently and there were so many different procedures going on, and I was like, I'm losing my mind. I mean, you can automate all of this, and you can bring in softwares that will help you be, 100 times more efficient on the business side of things, and help you, automate a lot of these things, and you can actually focus on what's next, what's bigger. So that's, having everything you just said really actually makes a lot of sense. Like, why not have a software and the technology in your business that will help automate some processes?
And the timing makes sense. All the disruption was happening. It used to be in the old days, technology disruption came from government and big corporations, and eventually it poured out on the consumer side, and then eventually you got a cool Wi-Fi printer in your house. It's flipped on its head. All the consumer-driven folks, and especially young consumers, were driving all the innovation. And so it made sense that they were focusing heavily on the consumer side, things that they're doing with their daily lives, talking, sharing with their friends, all that kind of stuff. As they get further into the workforce, and then meet up with other guys like me and stuff that have maybe been in the workforce for a while, they're going to see what you just said. They're going to say, this is, it's great that I can talk with my friends on my phone, I can do all this cool stuff, but what you're doing here in this office doesn't make any sense at all, so we got to change that. And so that's going to be happening for quite a while. And I think, frankly, that's where a lot more money's at, because businesses pay for stuff. So.
And I think that, again, to add to that point, I think the millennial generation is really helping with that, and they're really accelerating, how things are being done.
They absolutely are, because, just the ingenuity that's out there, they're applying things they learn now, and, and it's global, right? So somebody comes up with a new way to basically, move something on a screen or do something novel that makes it very simple and intuitive, and literally in a matter of a week that could flip over to some other part of the world and somebody could innovate again. It's coming back. You can't even keep up with it. It's why sometimes people ask me about patenting and stuff. Unless you really have something that you think you're onto, it's not worth the money or the time, because you have no idea whose patents you're stepping on or whatever. The innovation's happening so fast that it's better just to go and acquire customers and just solve problems and then figure it out in the end. I think that would be my advice. I'm not an attorney, by the way.
No professional advice given. One thing I like to ask entrepreneurs who come by MeetAdvisors.com is, what's one piece of advice you would give to our community, on the web?
Yeah, and I've talked about this in a couple other things, but I really think it takes stamina. There's a lot of noise, and it's especially for people that are early and maybe first-time entrepreneurs or young in their career. There's a lot of talk about pivots and failing fast and all this other stuff. And meanwhile, you have the prizes that have been shown out there, Facebook and WhatsApp and things going public. You got to be careful to not let that completely steer your decision making when you're building a business or trying to create value, because you really have to be in it for the long haul. Be prepared for the ups and downs and the lefts and rights and the roller coaster ride that is being an entrepreneur. And I think if you do that, there's a ton of opportunity for success. If you get discouraged early, it can be tough. So you got to be prepared for it for the long haul. It's not just a 6-month process. So.
Yeah, you better be ready for the long road ahead. A lot of people really just miss that whole point. Do you have a website?
Yeah, you can see our what we do generally at L Street at www.lstreetc.com. That's for lstreetcollaborative.com. And if you want to reach me, I'm Jay, my first name Jay, at lstreetc.com.
Guys, first off, thank you for joining us. And check out MeetAdvisors.com for more videos and blogs. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.